Now students, we'll go to the last regions of respiratory system, that means lungs, intercostal muscles and diaphragm. So lungs are vital organs of respiration. These are paired, elastic in nature, spongy in nature. So lungs are paired, elastic, spongy in nature. They are present in thoracic cavity, protected by thoracic cage and applied with diaphragm from below. Now these lungs, suppose that this is one lung. This lung is provided with two protective layers known as pleural layers. This is parietal pleura. This one is visceral pleura. The lungs are externally provided with protective elastic coverings known as pleura or pleural membranes. This pleural membrane is double. Outer is known as parietal. This one is outer and this one is inner. Inner one is known as visceral pleura. Now this outer and inner pleural membranes encloses one cavity. That cavity is known as, actually in between them a cavity is known as pleural cavity. This pleural cavity is filled with pleural fluid. Right? So, function of this cavity and fluid is, this pleural fluid acts as lubricant and keeps lungs always moist, and easy contraction and relaxation, that means expiration and inspiration of this lung occur inside this thoracic cavity due to presence of these pleural membranes containing pleural cavity containing pleural fluid. So remember these words, their positions and their names, etc. that will be asked in MCQ. Clear? So that is about the external coverings of lungs. Now remember, the lungs are paired. The lungs are paired. The right lung and left lung. You can say this one is right lung, this one is left lung. What is the difference between the right lung and left lung? The right lung is larger as compared to, slightly larger as compared to left lung. Left lung is smaller in size as compared to right one. Clear? Then right lung is divided into 3 lobes. Left lung is divided into 2 lobes. You can see here. This is the first lobe of right lung. This is the second. This one is third. Here also, this one is the first lobe and this one is the second lobe of left lung. Total 3 lobes in right lung and 2 lobes in left lung. Why? Due to presence of some fissures. These fissures are, this is transverse fissure, this one is oblique fissure. So in right lung, two fissures are there, transverse and oblique fissure, due to which there are three lobes are formed. One is, this one is known as superior lobe because present above. This one is known as middle lobe because present in the middle. And this one is the lowermost, so known as inferior lobe. Inferior lobe. So due to presence of two fissures, three lobes, superior, middle and inferior lobes are present in right lungs, total 3. Similarly, in left lung also, there is one fissure is present known as oblique fissure. Oblique fissure. This oblique fissure divides a left lung into two regions, upper superior lobe and lower inferior lobe. Only two lobes, superior and inferior. Right? So, basically, these are the distinctive characters in between the right lobe, right lung and left lung. Larger, smaller, having 3 lobes, having 2 lobes, having 2 fissures, having 1 fissure, and the names of lobes: superior, inferior, middle. Here only superior and inferior lobes. So you can also distinguish between the right lung and left lung also. Now further, remember, these lobes, how they are having the terminal bronchioles. When bronchiole enters inside the lungs, it branches out. Right? Suppose that this is the right bronchus. The right bronchus divides, enters inside, forms primary bronchiole. This primary bronchiole then divides and forms secondary bronchiole. The secondary bronchiole then divides and forms tertiary bronchiole. So finer and finer branches of this bronchus occur, for example, primary, secondary, tertiary. And at the end of tertiary bronchiole, one air sac, about 20 air sacs are present here, having a bunch of alveoli at their ends. This bunch of alveolus having this region is known as air sac containing alveolus. You can see here also. These are the branches of bronchioles. At the end, this air sac is present containing alveolus. Now, how the alveolus is, we'll see later on. Now you are clear cut. The lungs are paired, elastic, spongy, situated inside the thoracic cavity on either side of heart. You can also say or add that word. They are paired. There is a right and left lung is present. There is a clear cut distinguish between right and left lung, but prior to that, the protective coverings of lungs are known as pleural membranes. This pleural membrane is double layered. The outer layer is known as parietal layer, inner layer is known as visceral layer. In between these two, the cavity is present. That cavity is known as pleural cavity. this pleural cavity is filled with pleural fluid, and this pleural fluid gives lubrication when a lung contract and relax or during expiration and inspiration respectively. Further, there is a clear-cut distinguish between right and left lung. Right lung is slightly larger, left lung is slightly smaller. Right lung has 3 lobes, left lung has only 2 lobes. These 3 lobes are due to 2 fissures, transfer fissure and oblique fissure. There is a formation of superior lobe, middle lobe and inferior lobe. And in left lung, only 1 fissure is there, oblique fissure is there. Hence, there is only superior and inferior lobes are formed inside the lungs. One more specific feature about left lung is there. This left lung possesses one notch here. You can see. Into which the triangular projection of ventricle, especially left ventricle, is situated. This is known as cardiac notch. This is known as cardiac notch. So, cardiac notch is present only in left lung and not in right lung, because heart is medially in position, but ventricles of heart, especially left ventricle of heart, is slightly tilted towards left side. Hence, there is one notch appears inside the spongy lungs, and that notch is known as cardiac notch. Remember this word again for MCQ. Clear? And when bronchus, right bronchus and left bronchus enters into respective lungs, it branched out into primary bronchioles, then into secondary bronchioles, then into tertiary bronchioles, and at the end of this tertiary bronchiole, there is a bunch of alveolus are present. About 20 alveolus are present in one bunch, which looks like a grapes. That bunch is known as air sac. This air sac contains alveolus. Right? Now this alveolus is specifically, for your additional information, alveolus it is very thin. I have drawn their figure. Again I will draw. This alveolus, a very thin air bag lined by single layer of squamous epithelium. Single layer of squamous epithelium. So this is squamous epithelium. Remember the structure of alveolus, because depending upon that we have to study mechanism of respiration. That means transport of oxygen, transport of CO2, etc. So basically you must know about the nature or morphological feature of this alveolus. So this squamous epithelium is having only 0.1 millimeter thickness. That means they are too much thin so that gaseous exchange can easily occur. Or when they are supplied with such network of capillaries, suppose that this is a pulmonary arteriole which brings blood around this alveolus, and this one is another pulmonary venule which leaves blood from alveolus. So they are connected to each other in this way, and this connection, this capillary network formation is very closely applied to this alveolus. So when blood flows around this alveolus, the gaseous exchange occur. That means the oxygen is taken inside and the CO2 is thrown outside. Right? Overall, there are 700 million. Remember this figure also. Our textbook gives us a figure of 700 million such alveoli are present inside the human lungs. And such large number are most important for easy gaseous exchange or lot of gaseous exchange. Or in another word, you can say that 50 times it provides more respiratory surface, 50 times more than the skin. Our skin surface area. If you compare the surface area of our skin and surface area of alveolus 700 million, then it is 50 times more. And that's why we can easily bring about the gaseous exchange. So, such kind of alveoli, they increase the surface area for respiration and these are helpful for easy gaseous exchange. So, here we complete lung. The remaining two parts, and that is one is intercostal muscle, intercostal muscles, and diaphragm. What is intercostal muscle? Complete thoracic cavity is having one protective skeleton known as thoracic cage. This thoracic cage possesses ribs. There are about 12 pairs of ribs present in our thoracic cavity, total 24. They are successive and present laterally. Right? So this is a rib. In between these ribs, the muscles are present. These muscles are known as intercostal muscles. These intercostal muscles play important role in breathing. That means taking in air inside and throwing air outside. How they are useful in breathing with later on. So only remember intercostal muscles. These are also a part of our human respiratory system. Then diaphragm. Now diaphragm is a muscular, you can see here, a muscular partition present in between thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity. Thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity. So this diaphragm is in original condition, it is dome shaped. But during inhalation or inspiration, it becomes flat. So by contraction, so when it contracts, it becomes flat. When it relaxes, it becomes dome shaped. So by showing these two shapes, flatness and dome shaped, it brings about breathing, inspiration and expiration. How? We'll see later on. Clear? So here we complete all the regions or all the organs of respiratory system, under which we have studied at first nose containing this nasal cavity. Then we have studied pharynx. Then we have studied larynx. Then we have studied trachea. Then bronchi, two paired bronchi, right and left. Then we go to lungs. We have gone through lungs separately, right and left lung, their comparison and so on, their protections and so on. And finally, inside the lungs, we have studied the structure of this alveolus. And finally, we have summarized intercostal muscles and diaphragm. So go thoroughly through all these points of human respiratory system. In next lecture, we'll solve the questions on this human respiratory system. Today, I am sending to you the MCQs. Just I have told you in the first video, the MCQs. Solve that MCQs. That MCQs are also discussed in next lecture, tomorrow's lecture. And the MCQs on this unit, human respiratory system, will be discussed the day after tomorrow. Okay.